you keep thinking, I should want this more. And anytime you hear the word should, whether it is outside of you or internal, should is one of those like red light bells going off. Definitely an expectation that is worth exploring. Hey lady, welcome to the Highly Sensitive Woman podcast. Do you struggle with self-doubt, setting boundaries, or feeling overwhelmed? My name is Alyssa, and I'm a highly sensitive woman who spent years trying to fit in, ignoring my own needs, and living in constant fear of disappointing others. But I finally discovered the power of embracing who I am, and now I don't feel so broken. In this podcast, you'll learn to find your voice, set boundaries, and live with bold confidence and inner peace. Grab a cozy blanket. It's time to connect with someone just like you. Welcome back to the Highly Sensitive Woman. I can hardly believe that it is the last week of January 2026. The year is already flying by, and the mini marathon that I am training for will be here before I know it. And I'm, consistently going to the gym and, getting my workouts in. But something I want to talk about today is goals that we kind of take on that are not ours to own. And this happened to me recently. I'm training for this marathon, half marathon, And so this is a goal that I have taken on that is absolutely mine. It is something that I want to do. And consistently going to the gym is something that I want to do. But my fitness app on my phone that is tied to my watch, it set a goal for me of closing all 3 rings for 7 days in a row, sometime during the month of January. And I was coming home from the gym the other day, and I'd had a great workout, and I was feeling this just immense frustration and pressure and really some self-criticism that I didn't recognize exactly was there until I had this kind of aha moment and realized that this goal of closing all 3 rings on my fitness app 7 days in a row, it wasn't mine. My goal is to consistently go to the gym and have that be part of my daily life while training for this half marathon. And it was just this realization that I was taking on a goal that was something that I did not choose for myself. And how often we do that in our lives, because there is a very big difference between taking on a quote-unquote suggested goal, whether that is something that is explicitly suggested to us or just one that we perceive through societal expectations and messaging, or if we are choosing a very self-aligned goal. And in that moment, I realized there was absolutely nothing wrong with me, that I have my goal that I am working toward, and I was just trying to meet a standard that I never agreed to. And I know that I have done this in numerous ways outside of fitness. And so I just wanted to spend some time today talking to you about if you have ever felt frustrated with yourself for not wanting something that you are quote-unquote supposed to want. I know we very much celebrate the people who get up at 5 a.m. And if you don't, perhaps you have, internalized some messaging that you are lazy or wasting time or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you feel this, I'm supposed to go to social events where there's a large group of people, or I'm supposed to have a specific kind of job. Whatever that supposed to is, and however that is showing up in your life, I wonder, is it something that you actually want? Or is it some external standard that you have kind of accepted? Because as a highly sensitive woman, you are very attuned to the expectations all around you. And we have a tendency to internalize those external standards and then as a result of that, we need some external assurance because we have lost touch with what we really want. And so in this episode today, I want to help you start learning how to recognize what is yours and letting go of what isn't, so that you can move toward what you really want with clarity and self-assurance. And before I get to that, I want to share a message from a listener who took a moment to pause and kind of look inward and be really honest with herself about what she wanted, how she was feeling, so that she could choose some words that aligned for her rather than follow an expectation, whether it was real or perceived for her in a certain situation. Take a listen.
Hi, Alyssa. I hope you're having a good day. I just wanted to message you before I forget and tell you that I implemented something you talked about in your podcast this morning about unnecessarily apologizing. And it reminded me of when you talked about changing your voicemail message to, "I'm sorry, Mr. Call," because you're not really sorry, you're busy. So I reworded my work message to not include sorry because I wasn't really. But I didn't want to forget to tell you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good day. Bye.
So I love that message so much. And if you haven't listened to that episode that talks about stop saying I'm sorry, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to it, because that is kind of a societal thing that we have taken on of saying I'm sorry even when we are not, and this expectation that we are available to people at all times. And anyone who knows me personally knows that is not how I roll, and that I very much value personal time and having some boundaries around that, so that you are doing what you want to do for reasons that you like. So why, as highly sensitive women, do we take on goals that aren't ours? Part of it is a societal expectation, and part of it is kind of our internal dynamics. Specifically in the United States, we kind of live in a productivity culture, a hustle, a grind. We've got to do it the right way. There are also, depending on how you grew up, maybe some family expectations that have been placed upon you. We very much celebrate in this country praise for certain behaviors, and that may or may not have been exactly what you experienced in your family. But as highly sensitive women, we are very, very good at reading the room, and we so desperately want to belong that then we start getting a little bit confused of, is this expected of me versus is this right for me? And so just because a goal sounds like it's healthy or impressive or responsible doesn't necessarily mean that it's for you. So some signs that a goal might not be yours, and this is truly just information, it's not a diagnosis, but some signs that might be helpful is you feel pressure to do whatever this is instead of desire. The goal feels heavy or tight or urgent. The emotions behind the motivation are guilt, fear, or that you have something to prove to someone else. You keep thinking, I should want this more. And anytime you hear the word should, whether it is outside of you or internal, should is one of those like red light bells going off. Definitely an expectation that is worth exploring, whether or not it's something that you truly believe or is maybe worth reevaluating. Another example where you might be taking on goals that are not yours is that you feel relief when you imagine letting it go. And if any of these or some other example comes up for you as an indicator that you are taking on goals that are not yours, this is not a character flaw. It's just data that invites you to kind of slow down and check in with yourself. So some questions that you could ask to help you start to tell the difference between what is yours and what is coming from an external source. If no one else knew about this goal, would I still want it? What do I believe this goal will give me? Is this goal supporting my nervous system or fighting it? What would enough look like if I trusted myself? Because clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from listening to yourself in a way that you haven't been listening before. And even sometimes when we start asking ourselves these questions, because we have internalized the messaging for so long, it's still hard to tell the difference. So some things that you could do to kind of recalibrate, and if you don't have the exact answer to the question when you ask it initially, you could just pause on the goal and not abandon it completely, and then just kind of notice what comes up. Is it something that you're like, oh, I really miss working toward this goal? Or you feel that relief of, I'm really glad that I'm not doing this anymore. You could shrink the goal until it feels kind of fairly neutral and you don't necessarily have that pressure or an urgency to complete it. Maybe you could do a trial period with giving yourself permission to reassess at a specific time, whether that's a week, a month, 3 months, whatever the case may be. And then focus on consistency of self-trust, because you're not behind if you pause or shrink it or give it a trial period. You're just kind of recalibrating and reassessing and really starting to tune into what you want for yourself versus any of those external sources. So self-led goals, they feel quieter and steadier. They feel more sustainable. You start having self-assurance because you aren't forcing yourself forward. You're knowing that you can listen to your nervous system and your body and then respond in a way that feels right for you. And then you're just kind of in this cycle of you get clarity, you take some action, you reassess, you get clarity again, you take some more action, you reassess, and it's not a failure loop. That is actually a really healthy way to be moving forward and tuning into what it is that you really want and goals that are truly yours. So if you're realizing how often you have carried goals that weren't yours and you need maybe some help with clarity or follow through, or maybe both, and some help with that clarity action reassessment cycle, then I just want to invite you to join me for 4 free sessions, because we could have a space of untangling those external expectations and building self-trust and self-assurance and learning how to move forward without abandoning yourself. There are a few spots left for the rest of January 2026 to schedule your consultation and just see if we're a good fit. And you don't need better goals. It's not that any of the goals you have are good or bad. You just need permission to choose. And that permission comes from you, giving yourself permission to choose goals that are for you versus goals that others have chosen for you. Because the most powerful goals are the ones that stretch you while feeling like coming home to yourself. Until next time, take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who may be feeling like she's broken too? I'd love it if you'd leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It brings me so much joy to know this podcast is helping you. Now it's time for me to stop talking and go soothe my senses in nature. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Take care.